with the cause of its arising, must always and in everything evolve. Owing to the fact that the first of the mentioned three independent forces arising from vivifying actions proceeding in the very foundation of the cause of everything existing, and thus receives in its presence the germ of the possibility of manifesting vivifyingness, it may be considered as good, that is, as a factor for the actualizing of the backward-flowing effects, which in relation to this first force can and must be considered evil. Moreover, the first of these forces, which is manifested from inevitable and compelling causes arising in the prime source itself, can from this point of view be considered as passive. And the second, backward-flowing force, because it must constantly resist in order to have the possibility of penetrating backward, or at least the possibility of withstanding the opposite flowing first passive force which has received its momentum from the prime source causes, must be regarded as active. And as for the third independent world force, this force is nothing else but only the result of the clash, everywhere and in everything, of these two fundamental descending and ascending independent forces. Although this third independent force is only the result of both first fundamental forces, it is, nevertheless, the spiritualizing and reconciling source of every world formation. And it is the spiritualizing source of every world formation because it arises and must exist in them as a presence, all the time, while the given results exist which arise from various unusual mutual resistances occurring between the said two fundamental forces, flowing in entirely opposite directions. And so, my boy, it was in this sense, and in this meaning, that the words good and evil were first used by this unfortunate Makari Kronbergsion. Thanks to the aforesaid Boule Marchano of his, and according to other data elucidated by me there on the spot, there was crystallized in me, both concerning Makari Kronbergsion himself and everything else, my own special opinion, entirely different from the one which the religious dwellers of the Holy Planet expressed as a result of all their researches, which, although wise, were not direct. I repeat, although the idea of external good and evil first arose there thanks to the individuality of that Makari Kronbergsion, yet he was, in my opinion, not to blame for it having taken such a maleficent form. However it might have been, my boy, indeed, according to the detailed and impartial researches I made there on the spot concerning this, the following then became very definitely clear to me. When this maleficent idea there gradually took on such a definite form, and began to be for the psyche of your favorites what is called an actualizing factor for the crystallization in their common presences of data for the fantastic notion, namely, that outside of them there exist, as it were, objective sources of good and evil, acting upon their essence. Then from that time on, other peculiar data, at first spontaneously and later through their strange consciousness, began to be crystallized in the general psyche of each of them, which data, owing to automatic being associations, engender the conviction that the causes of their manifestations, both good and bad, are not they themselves personally, nor their own criminal essence egoism, but some or other external foreign influences not depending on them at all. The fundamental evil for all these unfortunates from this fantastic idea resulted there chiefly because, even before this, of course thanks always to the same conditions of ordinary being existence established by them themselves, data ceased to be crystallized in them for the engendering of what is called various being aspects of a world view. And instead of this, a world view is formed in them based exclusively on that maleficent idea about external good and evil. And indeed, at the present time there, your favorites have already based all questions without exception, questions concerning ordinary being existence as well as questions about self-perfecting, and also about various philosophies and every kind of science existing there, and of course also about their innumerable religious teachings, and even their notorious what are called morality, politics, laws, morals, and so on, exclusively on that fantastic, but for themselves, in an objective sense, very maleficent idea. If now, my boy, in addition to all I've told you concerning this maleficent idea, I shall tell you only about how the beings of our tribe, who were exiled on this peculiar planet, involuntarily became the participants of the arising of a certain comical story, then I am sure you will obtain almost a real conception of the weird notion of your favorites about good and evil. The beings of our tribe were in the following way the involuntary cause of the complete fixing of this comical story, in the process of the ordinary existence of these strange three-brained beings. I have already told you once that many beings of our tribe happened in the beginning to exist there and to mix with the ancestors of these favorites of yours, and even to have friendly relations with certain of them. It is necessary to remark that when our tribe indeed existed there among them, there was absolutely nothing at all concerning this tragic-comic story about which I shall now tell you, unless we exclude the fact that before our tribe left that planet the last time, a notion arose and began to exist among certain beings there, but only among those particularly naive, that the beings of our tribe are, as it were, immortal. And this notion then arose there evidently because the beings of our tribe had an incommensurably longer duration of existence than theirs, and hence the cases of the sacred Raskuarno among our tribe were rare. And perhaps it happened that in those periods this sacred process did not even occur to any of our tribe. I repeat that besides the aforesaid, there was nothing else there at that period when our tribe existed among them. Only afterwards, when for certain considerations the desire was expressed from above that as few as possible of the beings of our tribe should exist on that planet, and when therefore the majority of us emigrated to exist on other planets of that same system, in consequence of which scarcely any of our beings remained among them, just from that time on began the aforementioned comical story, in which even until now the real names of certain beings of our tribe are involuntarily involved. The events which gave rise there to this peculiar coincidence, namely, that these strange three-brained beings connected the names of many beings of our tribe with this fantastic idea of theirs, came about owing to the following. Soon after our beings departed from this planet, a certain Armanatora, who had belonged to the epoch of the blossoming of the Tikliamishian civilization, and who was by profession a priest, but from among those of this profession whom others regarded as learned priests, was the first who built up the whole religious teaching based on this maleficent idea. It was just in that same religious teaching that he